Okay, in a moment, joining me on the legal survival expert line will be Alan Bayless, who will talk to you about something that you may want to know about, and many of your friends and family: traffic court tickets, traffic court law.
You can help keep the vital information of the Legal Survival Show on the air. This show is a public service of the nonprofit Justice and Freedom Fund. We want you to have the access to the best information that's necessary to make informed decisions for yourselves and your families. Please help support this different kind of talk show designed to help you with the must-have tools you need to protect your family, finances, property, privacy, and freedom. Please visit the website at legalsurvival.org and click the tab at the top of the page that says Donate. You can make a one-time donation or become a regular supporter, and of course any help you provide is greatly appreciated. And check the site often for special free gifts. That's legalsurvival.org. Please help us continue to bring the show into your homes and workplace by visiting legalsurvival.org, or if you prefer, you can call toll-free 888-260-4460. That's 888-260-4460. 888-260-4460.
Okay, on our expert line is the leading authority in Southern California on traffic law, Alan Bayless. Alan, thanks for joining us.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
You know, a lot of people have misconceptions about traffic tickets. Some people think that you just have to pay them, that there's no way to beat them. Other people think you can challenge everything. But there are some tickets that you really shouldn't challenge in the sense of actually trying to have a trial, and you have another service that you offer on that. And
right.
There are others that should be challenged. So tell us about that.
Well, you know, for example, if you're not the kind of person that gets a lot of tickets, but, you know, feels like you should perhaps avail yourself of the use of the traffic courts, it's common knowledge that if an officer doesn't show up for the trial, that the case will be dismissed. And so if you want to have somebody show up for you so that if the officer doesn't appear, the case will get dismissed, but you'd rather be at work or golf or whatever, then we can have an attorney show up in court for you. If you have traffic school available to you, then generally speaking, the courts will allow you to use the traffic school program on the day of trial if the officer does happen to show up. So we'll go ahead and be there for you. Our fees are very reasonable for this service, and then you can not have to take a day off of work, and we'll be there in case the officer doesn't show up so we can take the dismissal.
Okay, so you're saying if I'm a person that has a traffic ticket and I'm really busy, I can't go to court that day, you actually, or one of your attorneys, will appear at the court, and in the event that the police officer shows up, you'll go ahead and arrange for the traffic school so that I really don't have to go into court at all.
Correct. Right. The law does allow traffic court appearances to be made by an attorney without the defendant being there most of the time.
Okay, and that's a scenario we would use if it's the type of traffic ticket that couldn't be actually won by the person that has the ticket in a trial. But what kind of traffic tickets would fall into that category? If a policeman saw someone go through a stop sign, a policeman stopped someone speeding, observing them speeding. Are those the kinds of cases that you would perform that kind of service on?
Yes, most of the time it wouldn't make very much sense to have a trial on a case if traffic school is available to the client. So certain cases are much more difficult to win at trial than others. The more technical the legal aspects of a case are, the more chances you have of winning it at trial. So certainly running a stop sign, most of the time crossing the double yellow lines on the carpool lane, failing to obey a no U-turn sign or something like that. Those are the ones that are difficult because the officer's burden of proof, what he has to prove in order to make the conviction is pretty minimal. When you get into more technical things about California speed trap law, red light camera tickets, and those kinds of things, then there's more opportunity to bring in technical and legal issues.
Let's get technical, Alan. Let's get technical. You said magic words. You said camera tickets, photo tickets. People are getting, I have friends I've heard this from. I have clients, actually, and all of a sudden they get this thing in the mail. It says they got a ticket for a red light. Can those be beaten by a defense in a court?
Yes, in most of the time there's a defense that can be raised, and as time goes on, the cities are changing the way they present their cases, and we keep throwing new legal issues at them, and so there is always a chance of winning those cases if you have a really experienced and knowledgeable attorney to fight the case. Very seldom does someone fighting one of those cases on their own win them. They're very seldom.
And that would be true also for the cases. Now, I see this often. You're driving down the freeway and you see, thankfully, I tend to obey the law when I'm driving, but I'll pass a police officer who's pointing that gun at me, that not his sidearm, but a radar gun. And a lot of people believe if they get stopped by a police officer and they don't believe that they actually broke the law, that they can't challenge a radar gun. What's your take on that?
Well, most of the time there's at least some evidentiary issues that you can raise. In other words, the admissibility of the evidence as to the calibration of the radar or laser unit. The handheld units generally are lasers. The car-mounted units are radar. But if it's on the freeway, it's a little tougher to beat those than if it's on a surface street where the engineering and traffic surveys have to be brought in, and then you have a lot of ways to challenge the sufficiency of the survey and the admissibility of the evidence and things. So there is kind of a continuum of cases that have the kinds of legal issues that can result in a win versus ones that are harder to beat.
But so these are two categories that you litigate in traffic court quite often then, radar cases and these photo red light cases. And then there's this kind of procedure that is a trial that takes place by paperwork called a trial by declaration. And I've heard of people doing this. Is this advisable?
It can be. There's pros and cons to it. If the court does find you guilty on the trial by declaration, the point goes on your record right away. However, you do have the right to request a new trial, a court trial, in front of a judge. And so there's always the possibility that just like an officer may not show up in court on the day of the court trial, he may not fill out his part of the paperwork on the trial by declaration. And that is generally an automatic win. So some people do like to do the trial by declarations. I do offer that service. It's not something I do a lot of, but I do offer the service to help people out with that.
Is there any disadvantage going in front of a judge after you've lost a trial by declaration? Is that because it's on the record? Is the judge going to make it tougher on you or not?
Well, in theory, it shouldn't make any difference at all, but
in practice, may be different.
Perhaps, but on the other hand, traffic court's tough anyway. Very, very few judges are going to be, anything better than neutral when it comes to. In fact, you're lucky to get a judge that's, fairly neutral in the way they see the evidence and judge the credibility of the witnesses. The courts do have a tendency to lean towards the prosecution. So you are always fighting an uphill battle, but I certainly wouldn't mention any names. But certain courts that are friendlier than others.
Yeah, there always are. Hey, Alan, this is really, really beneficial. I just want to tell you, I love the name of your website, 99nofine.com. It's almost like a hip-hop song. We're going to link legalsurvival.org, www.legalsurvival.org. We'll have a link to Alan Bayless's website, 99nofine.com. Of course, the number one thing to do is to obey the law when you're driving, and to never, ever drive recklessly, and never let yourself or your friends drive when you're not in a state where you should, either being sleepy or any other reason. But if you do need help, you can see this is a great authority. Alan Bayless, I want to thank you so much for being with us, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to have had the opportunity to join in. Thank you.
Please help keep the Legal Survival Show on the air. This radio program is a public service of the nonprofit Justice and Freedom Fund. If you appreciate what you're hearing, visit the website legalsurvival.org and click on the tab at the top of the page that says Donate. You can make a one-time donation or become a regular supporter. And of course, any help you can provide is greatly appreciated. Check the sites often for special free gifts as well. Help us continue bringing the show into your home and workplace by visiting legalsurvival.org. You can also call toll-free 888-260-4460. That's 888-260-4460.